What is up, New York Mets fans? Welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. And we are live in the very late afternoon, just approaching 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this lovely Tuesday because we've got some breaking news from our beloved New York Mets. And as you can see on the screen, it's a great day. It's a great day, especially for this rotation regarding the top prospects in this farm system, a top 5 prospect at that in this farm system, and that is Jonah Tong is getting the call up to Queens, and he will be starting for the New York Mets this coming Friday at home against the Miami Marlins. Now, I do realize that it is very early. It is not even the evening time just yet, and David Stearns is also giving his press conference live right now, which I'm sure a lot of you all are going to be watching right now and paying attention to this stream and watching maybe even the replay because we're not going to be here for too long, but we're here to talk about the state of this rotation, this decision, and just how excited we should be to see this move happen from David Stearns and the New York Mets. And before we fully get into it, as always, the usual programming here. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, all that fun stuff if you enjoy these conversations, and hit the notifications buttons to get notified when I go live when something like this happens and an exciting call up happens, because I don't think this is going to be the last one for the New York Mets. Brandon Sproat is not here just yet, and I can see Brandon Sproat coming up as well to have the trifecta with McLean, Tong, and Sproat all at the major league level to help this team come September. So really exciting stuff. This really came out of nowhere because I dropped the video on the channel yesterday talking about the series preview between the Mets and the Phillies ahead of game one, in which the Mets won 13-3. And obviously, we were live for the post game yesterday, breaking that game down. And Zach and I were having a discussion regarding Jonah Tong and if it was feasible for him to come up, given, I guess, the late promotion from AA to AAA only has 11 2/3 innings, of time in Syracuse, in which he's posted triple zeros, no ERA, all zeros. And we were kind of going back and forth on whether David Stearns was going to make this decision and if the Mets were quote unquote desperate enough with what was happening with the rotation to make this kind of move and rush Jonah Tong, so to speak. And when you talk about a prospect of this caliber and how quickly he has just risen through the ranks of this farm system, going from a 7th-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, back in 2022 by the New York Mets, and in 3 years' time, going through 4 different levels, now up at the major leagues, there's clearly talent there. And he's shown each step of the way at each level that he is fully capable of being a dominant pitcher at each level and eventually the major leagues, which we will be seeing here hopefully shortly this coming Friday. So, this is a credit to David Stearns. And I want to make sure that that point is well put out there, that David Stearns has now taken matters into his own hands and has realized the state of this rotation and the falling apart of this rotation, so to speak, given the lack of length from guys like Kodai Senga, who only delivered 4 innings yesterday across 93 pitches, and it was an abysmal outing, and a guy like Sean Manaea, who has also recently struggled. Clay Holmes is still going to be a part of this rotation. If I had to guess, we don't really have any residual moves that at least I don't know about at this point while I'm doing this live stream. I'm not sure if David Stearns has stated if anyone's going to be moving to the bullpen or not, but I think that what they're going to do, and I think this is what David Stearns said a little bit before I went live here, is that the Mets are going to evaluate this rotation on a turn-by-turn basis. That means the rotation is going to be flexible. The arms that they have in this rotation are going to be flexible in terms of if they're going to be coming out of the bullpen or if they're going to be starting games for the New York Mets down the stretch of this season. So that's not going to rule out a guy like Sean Manaea going to the bullpen after his start versus Philadelphia tonight. That's not going to rule out, let's say, if you want to call up a guy like Brandon Sproat and have him in the bullpen. And that's not going to rule out Jonah Tong as well, I would think, being a bullpen piece or a bullpen candidate, especially as you head closer and closer to the playoffs. And if the Mets don't give him a rotation spot in a wild card series, should the Mets get there. But for right now, and maybe for the foreseeable future going through September, Jonah Tong will be starting games for the New York Mets. Now, I'm very curious because I don't think that Kodai Senga is well suited for the bullpen, and I don't think the Mets are going to make that decision. I think that they also know that he is not well suited for the bullpen, which means you have to have him on this roster. So that means he's going to be a rotation piece. We saw how he did last night, and historically, on regular rest, 4 days rest, it's not good for Kodai Senga. Are the Mets going to go back to that six-man rotation turn, especially with the emergence now and the promotion of Jonah Tong and maybe a guy like Tyler McGill coming up and having his services as a sixth starter in order to get Kodai Senga back on that schedule? I don't exactly know how that's going to work out, but all I know is that David Stearns looked at this rotation for the past couple of weeks, and he decided that Nolan McLean was not enough. They needed another top prospect, and Jonah Tong is getting the call. Again, once more, per the MLB pipeline and their latest rankings, Jonah Tong is the fourth best or fourth ranked prospect in the Mets farm system, and he comes in at number 44 according to the MLB Pipeline's top 100 prospects in all of baseball. He is electric, and he has four pitches, as we were talking about on the post game with Zach yesterday. Two of those pitches are far beyond better than the other two pitches. So you can think of him as a two-pitch pitcher, but he does have the capability of throwing four pitches, being the fastball, which is elite in every single advanced metric category, especially induced vertical break, his changeup, which is his primary, secondary put away pitch, and also a slider and a curveball to go alongside that. And you take a look at what he's done so far in 2025 across AA and AAA, just about 113 innings, which is what he also posted in the totality of his 2024 season when he really started to take off and put the Mets organization on notice and himself on notice in this Mets organization. He's going to be pitching the most innings in a very long time of his career. And so I'm sure the Mets are going to be very careful with how they approach the rest of this season from an innings perspective, not only with Tong and McLean, but given that they are young pitchers. Jonah Tong is only 22 years old, but I like the aggressiveness by this front office, realizing that 2025 is a wide open opportunity and that impactful arms are necessary to get into this rotation, even if they are young prospects like Noel McLean and Jonah Tong. Look at my guy Rob right here. Tong, tong, tong. Urgency, baby. And if you all are I guess just coming back from work or whatever you're doing on this Tuesday evening, make sure to go check out my guy Rob on the pregame stream. Unfortunately, I will not be able to join him at 5:45 p.m. for a Mets versus Phillies game 2 pregame. He's got you all covered there, but I am doing a postgame tonight in addition to this stream right now that is live at 4:37 p.m. I'm not going to be live on this stream here for too much longer. Just kind of wanted to break the news and talk about the current state of the rotation and the New York Mets before I get out of here. But I will be live for the post game, and you all will be redirected right after this stream ends to the post game stream that I have up when we go live after Mets versus Phillies game 2, which is a huge game, by the way. The Mets are looking to win the series and potentially set themselves up for a sweep, a much needed series or sweep, given the current state of the NL East right now and the wild card standings. But this is absolutely a monumental day, a huge day for the Mets organization moving forward in 2025. And that's not even taking into account that we have a game later tonight and whatever the final result of that is. Organizationally, I'm talking about organizationally and finally seeing the prospects come up. And, since 2023, when Billy Epler was here and the Mets were basically just selling the team away at the trade deadline and were accumulating these prospects, this is the time. When you fast forward us in 2023 talking about it, we were like, okay, 2024, 2025, we want to see these prospects come up and make a difference in a major way. The time is now, Mets fans, and that's what the front office is telling you right now. So I want to make sure to shout out everybody in the chat as well. Keep on dropping those live chat comments. Let me know how you feel, Mets fans. How do you feel on this lovely day of August 26th, knowing that Jonah Tong will be in a Mets uniform officially come Friday night at Citi Field against the Miami Marlins, as per Carlos Mendoza? Also, to make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons on this channel as well. I thoroughly appreciate it. So let me get to some more of these comments here real quick. I appreciate you all. I'm so excited and parched at the same time. I need some water here. Let's see what we got here. So, Uncuffed Sports Podcast says, love this. Minor league total stats, 247 innings. He's only allowed 8 home runs, 160 hits, and 377 strikeouts. He might be the next DeGrom 2.0. That's a hefty, I guess, comparison to put on Jonah Tong. Jonah Tong is absolutely talented without a doubt. I the comparisons are going to be made all the time. I'm absolutely sure, and I'm absolutely here for it. But I always reserve the comparisons until we get a good feel about how they come up and they acclimate to the MLB level. But this is huge. And a lot of people talk about, comparisons with Tong and his windup to a guy like, because he goes mostly over the top. That's how sneaky the delivery is in terms of the arm action. A lot of people call him like baby Tim Lincecum, something like that. But Jonah Tong has 100% the chance to be a great New York Mets pitcher when it's all said and done. And again, his career hasn't even started yet. And I know that we are excited in terms of making these comparisons. And we've been waiting for electricity like this with McClain and Tong since DeGrom departed the Mets organization a couple of years ago. But, I feel the excitement, especially with that comment 100%. And this fan base is absolutely electric right now. And it helps that the Mets are coming off of a 13-3 victory. The only thing that could be better right now, if you're a New York Mets fan, is if you fast forward to our post-game stream later tonight and we're talking about another Mets victory. But I even think if the Mets do drop this game, I don't care, because if this front office is showing us fans that they will be prioritizing this season, then I'm all here for it. I'm all here for it. And I love to see that. So this is huge, as BX is saying right here. Absolutely huge. He looked way better than DeGrom in the minor leagues. It's all about if he can bring it in the MLB, and he will, because his stuff is just plain old nasty. Yeah, like I said, with the arsenal surrounding Jonah Tong, if you don't really know the scouting report on him, the fastball is lively, it's electric, it's unique given the over-the-top angle that he throws from off the mound, and he has a pretty decent changeup that induces a lot of swing and miss. Now, the one thing that I'm curious to see is when we get into the Jonah Tong starts, especially starting on Friday, I'm very curious what the game plan is actually going to be in terms of the distribution of pitches that he throws and how often he decides to utilize a tertiary pitch or the fourth pitch being the curveball or slider. That's something that I'm very curious about, what the game plan will be from Tong, Hefner, and the catcher, whether it's Sanger or Terrence out there behind the plate. But that's something that I think, especially when we made the comparison, like we want to talk about comparisons. We made a comparison last night. I know Uncuffed was talking about Jacob deGrom as it pertains to Mets pitchers, but if you're talking about recent notable pitchers, young pitchers that have come up and made a huge leap through the minor league farm systems and have had immediate success at the MLB level, I think Spencer Strider, not with the mechanics, not with the stature, but I'm talking about strictly being a two-pitch predominant pitcher and relying on, a fastball and whatever the preferred secondary pitch is. I think for Strider, it's his slider. That's something where the league in year one, and forget year one, this isn't even year one for Jonah Tong. This is like month one for him, and it will be month one once September ends. The league won't have enough time, we would hope to adjust to even those two pitches with how nasty they are, as BX is saying. So, you know, I think in the near future, especially this offseason going into 2026 spring training, the Mets and Jonah Tong are going to work on that third and fourth pitch and making it more MLB ready, when maybe some scouts are saying that it isn't just yet. But right now, with what the Mets need in the rotation and what Jonah Tong can provide and what he's done in the minor leagues, as BX is saying in the chat, a fastball and a changeup, if the changeup is effective and it changes the hitter's eye levels, that's really all you need. That's really all you need. And that's really all Jonah Tong needs to be successful. Yes, the league will adjust. We've seen it time and time again from both a hitting perspective and a pitching perspective. Sean Manaea is a great example of that from the pitching side. Mark Vientos is a great example of that from the hitting side, although he is turning it around in a major way. Mark Vientos is in the month of August, as of recent. The league will adjust, but if Tong is able to, up his game with those third and fourth pitches, he won't give them any opportunity or time to adjust in this offseason, because he will be brandishing basically two newer pitches depending on how he utilizes it. So that's what I'm curious about. And that's why I'm curious about it is he going to reveal those two pitches at a high clip this early on into his career, or is he going to more so just rely and prioritize the fastball changeup and then start thinking about more so the slider curveball on a more regular basis in 2026? So that's something that the Mets will figure out. I'm sure they had this discussion and game plan with Jonah Tong when they were having the discussions of bringing him up. And now that he's officially up, we will see in a couple of days. But again, huge game tonight. Really good news as I go on ESPN and check some things out here regarding what happened last night around the league. If I'm not mistaken, by the time we ended the post game, the Dodgers were up on the Reds, and the Dodgers shut out the Reds. So the Mets gain a game on the Reds in the wild card standings, I believe, putting them up by 2.5 games, which is great. The division lead was cut last night from the Philadelphia Phillies to 6 games, with an opportunity to make it 5 games tonight with a win. Just a really good time to call up Jonah Tong ahead of the September call-ups. I mean, the time was now. I don't even think that there's supposed to be any speculation about this. I think that the clear-cut answer was to bring him up, and I'm glad that David Stearns actually pulled the trigger on this happening. So when you take a look at the probable starters, it's going to be Sean Manaea tonight against the Phillies. Nolan McLean is going up against the Phillies tomorrow. On Thursday, it's going to be Clay Holmes. And so what I'm assuming they're going to do is push David Peterson back, who is the scheduled starter for the New York Mets on Friday. They're going to push him back to Saturday, and they're going to push Kodai Senga back one day to give him his regular rest instead of the regular 4 days of rest that he was pitching on as of last night. And they're just going to insert Jonah Tong into the rotation here. So, if that's the case, we're talking about, McLean, Peterson, Tong, Manaea, Holmes. That's 5. Who else am I forgetting here? Chat, help me out. Let's see. And Senga, if I didn't count him. So is that a 6-man rotation at this point? Let's go through it. Let me make sure I get this right here as we're doing this on the fly. Please work with me here. So, okay. Where am I at here? This is August 26th. Senga pitched last night. Senga, Manaea, McLean. Thursday, it's Holmes. So that's 5. Okay. So like I said, I do think at this point, the Mets, as we talked about last night, unfortunately, whether Mets fans want to hear this or not, I do think that McGill, if the rehab assignment continues to go well for him, I think that he is going to be on the fast track to come up and be the Mets sixth starter as well. but I think there's a couple more days until we officially get that answer here. So, yeah, it's exciting stuff, Mets fans. It's exciting stuff, and that's why I'm on here on this stream right now talking about it with you all. Salute to Franco here. Let's go, New York Mets. Absolutely appreciate you being here as a part of this live stream talking about the breaking news of the Mets calling up top pitching prospect Jonah Tong, 44th ranked prospect in all of baseball per the MLB pipeline, and New York Mets fourth ranked prospect per the MLB pipeline as well. All aboard the Tong Express, says Elvin. Absolutely. I think he may have the nastiest changeup in baseball. I've been watching Jonah Tong since SNY showed his first start highlights last year. His secondary pitches are unhittable. Mets Flick says LGM as well. Uh, yeah, there's one other point that I wanted to make surrounding this, and now I'm forgetting. Oh, in terms of the actual Mets farm system, I know that ESPN isn't really as highly regarded as an outlet like Baseball America or any of the other ones that rank prospects, the MLB pipeline, etc. But ESPN, for what it's worth, ranked the Mets farm system as the number one farm system in baseball. And you can give credit to guys like Jet Williams, Carson Benj, Jonah Tong, Noel McLean, and even Brandon Spro, even though he's kind of having an up and down year, all having great years in this farm system alongside a guy like Ryan Clifford, all these guys getting promoted, so to speak, to the next level. And even other guys, right, that you don't really think of necessarily at the top of your head or, on the top of your head, like a guy like Jacob Reimer, etc. So really good stuff happening, and we're starting to see this farm system get into the next stage of promotions, etc. So I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Let me go to Jonah Tong's page right here for baseball reference. Again, I think 1.79 ERA across 102 innings in Double A so far, and a 0 ERA in Triple A in his first couple of starts for Syracuse, if I'm not mistaken. Let's confirm this right here. Yep, play 1.76 ERA, over 102 innings, a .92 walks and hits per innings pitched. That's the statistic. That's very important. When you talk about a guy like, let's make the comparison here real quick of Kodai Senga, and you talk about all the walks that he's been giving up this season, that walks and hits per innings pitch marker is almost more important of the general pitching statistics for me than even ERA is. And so I love to see that at below one across all these levels for Jonah Tong. I think the last time it was over one for him was in high A ball. Yeah, because last season in Double A, it was 0.85. This season in Double A, it was 0.92. And in Triple A, over the 11 and two-thirds innings, it was 0.94. So that shows you that not only is he unhittable, that also his command is pretty top tier as well. And hopefully we continue to see that at the major league level. And Jonah Tong, let's not forget what Nolan McLean is doing right now. Jonah Tong has been widely for this whole entire season been thought of as the more talented pitcher of the trio of Tong, Sproat, and McLean. And so if we just watch the last two starts from Nolan McLean be what they are over just over 12 innings pitched, right? You know, an earned run given up. Is it one earned run for Nolan McLean? Let me double check. Let me fact check. I think it might be two, actually. Nolan McLean stats here. It's only two outings. I should know this. It's been a long day. Please bear with me. For the Mets here, two starts. He's given up two earned runs. Okay, so if we're seeing this type of production, 15 strikeouts. So the put away pitches are there for Nolan McLean. And we're saying that Jonah Tong has been widely accepted as the better pitcher by a lot of scouts and baseball analysts around the league, then that just opens up the door of the plethora of opportunities that Jonah Tong is going to have on display to show why he is the best pitching prospect, not only in the Mets farm system, but also in the pipeline right now because analysts and scouts that we've been seeing, on Twitter, wherever it is, the outlets are, they've been saying that about Jonah Tong, very high praise. And so I defer to their opinions. I'm not going to claim to watch every single one of Jonah Tong's outings across AA and AAA over the past season and a half, but I'll defer to the experts there. And the experts are saying that he is the absolute real deal. So, yeah, Stanley's saying it's about time to bring up Tong. And not only is this exciting because we get the new fresh arm, but it's exciting from the actual perspective of the front office. As I opened up this stream about, 23 minutes ago, I stated this is a huge credit to David Stearns realizing the state of this team and what this team needs right now and making that move and not even thinking twice about it. They could have took this until the very end. They could have took this until August, 31st at whatever the deadline was, midnight, whatever the deadline was for the September call-ups. They could have mulled this decision over until that point. But it's August 26th, and it's go time for the New York Mets. And so we are seeing Jonah Tong versus the Miami Marlins. The other good news, and I posted a short clip about this on my channel, is that Francisco Alvarez has completed his second batting practice session earlier today. Came out of left field because yesterday when the booth was talking about it, I had no idea that Francisco Alvarez was already swinging the bat, let alone taking serious cuts. We're not talking about, half-hearted swings. We're talking about full game mode swings. And the report was that he put a baseball over the right field fence today in batting practice and that he's ready to go. Francisco Alvarez also says he has no pain. He will be in a splint on his thumb. I think the Mets actually had photo day today, and you saw Alvarez sporting that splint on his thumb, but he has no pain, and he intends to be up with the big league team sometime in September, I would imagine, after his rehab assignment that he starts tomorrow. So for now, we'll see if there's any setbacks or if there's any status changes with that thumb. For now, it looks like the Mets avoided anything long-term with Francisco Alvarez until this offseason, where he is likely, as was reported originally, to have surgery to repair that thumb. But he's giving it a go. He's a warrior. We all know this about Francisco Alvarez. I am hopeful that the Mets are going to be precautionary and just very ultra cautious with Francisco Alvarez. I know he wants to play very badly, but I would rather not risk anything long term with that thumb not healing correctly rather than rushing him back or him coming back and feeling some pain in that thumb and just continuing to power through it and messing things up even more with his recovery in the offseason. So that's all I'll say about that. But you got to listen to him right now. He says there's no pain. And so I'm sure the Mets are believing him and they're sending him for a rehab assignment to see how it goes. So shout out to everyone in the chat. Like I said, this wasn't going to be a super long stream. I just wanted to come up here for about 30 minutes roughly. We're just under that, talking about the Jonah Tong call up, talking about this decision from the New York Mets. And I appreciate everyone coming in here and watching this stream. Jonah Tong has entered the chat, and so has D, saying shout out CP. I definitely appreciate you being here, D. This is going to do it for the live stream here on the True Mets Talk podcast on this channel. I definitely appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up buttons on this stream if you are excited to see Jonah Tong this Friday night against the Miami Marlins. Make sure to follow me over on X and Instagram at True Mets Talk. You can also find me over on TikTok, posting some videos that may or may not come up on this channel as well, to fill you all in on the news in between. But with that, that's going to do it for me. You'll be redirected after this stream ends to the post-game stream that we are doing, hopefully alongside Zach. He's going to let me know if he's available like we both did yesterday, but I'll be there at the minimum for you all to talk about hopefully what is a series win for the New York Mets with Sean Manaea on the mound. But whether it's lose or win, we will be talking about the game. So I definitely appreciate it. I'll see you all next time. And as always, let's go Mets and let's go Jonah Tong. Peace.